In the 2020 French Open final, Iga Świątek struck a forehand so violent and beautiful that the crowd gasped. In that single motion, a clean, explosive contact followed by a furious chase to the net, it became clear to everyone watching that this young Pole was no ordinary baseliner. She had finally embraced her own game and, in doing so, began to break away from the safe patterns that had defined her earlier play. Early in her career, Świątek's tennis was still raw. As a teenager, she looked much like other teenagers on the pro tour. Athletic, determined, but not yet refined. She won points with speed and tenacity, with movement that covered the court and effort that made opponents pay for errors. Yet analysts repeatedly noted that her play showed many rough edges. She relied on textbook drills and fundamentals, consistent deep shots, disciplined footwork, and a willingness to remain in rallies. But she lacked a distinct strategic identity or a signature weapon that truly set her apart. Even her admiration for Rafael Nadal's heavy spin style initially translated into imitation rather than invention. Young players often copy the best they see, and Świątek was no exception. She practiced the shots, studied patterns, and tried to fit herself into existing molds. That approach brought results in pockets, but it left an important question unanswered. Could she build a version of tennis that was uniquely hers and powerful enough to win repeatedly at the highest level? The turning point came as she matured physically and mentally. Off the court, she began to invest in her head as much as in her mechanics. Working with sports psychologist Daria Abramovich, Świątek learned to reinterpret pressure and to build routines that calmed the mind. Breathing exercises, visualization drills, and short mental resets between points became part of her daily practice. On court, this looked simple. She would breathe, clear the slate, and move on. But the effect was profound. Instead of carrying tension from one game into the next, she learned to treat each moment independently as a new problem to solve rather than a threat to fear. Technically and tactically, she shifted as well. Her team encouraged the development of the weapons that felt most natural to her: extreme topspin on the forehand, earlier ball striking, and an assertive stance inside the baseline. She stopped merely mirroring other players and started trusting instinct. The swing changed subtly but decisively. A more extreme Western grip, a higher racket head through impact, and a willingness to accept a little margin for error because the spin itself granted safety and control. The forehand was no longer merely a repeatable stroke. It became a tool for creating space, opening angles, and forcing opponents into uncomfortable positions. Her new style rested on three clear pillars. The first was a topspin-powered offense. By leaning into heavy spin rather than attempting to flatten shots, Świątek elevated both the safety and the offensive potential of her forehand. On clay, that combination is extraordinarily effective. The ball jumps and kicks, forcing opponents to respect depth and to make difficult choices when stepping in. Numbers from Roland Garros 2020 highlighted her exceptional spin and shot speed. But more important than the statistics was how those traits translated into control and opportunity during point construction. The second pillar was variety: tempo, angles, and the occasional move to the net. Świątek learned to disrupt rhythm. She could hammer a deep, heavy ball to the backhand, then instantly mix in a short drop or a disguised half volley to create a new heartbeat in the rally. This ability to change the script mid-point prevented opponents from settling into their comfort zones. Commentators compared her play to a picture book of shots, each chapter offering something different, but all written with discipline and intent. That variety made her hard to predict and even harder to prepare for on short notice. The third pillar was identity and mental confidence. The psychological work, repeated daily, turned into a competitive edge that opponents often could not anticipate. Traveling with a sports psychologist might sound like a luxury, but for Świątek, it was an integral training tool. Small rituals, a breathing pattern before serve, a short personal cue after losing a point, a visualization before big games, became dependable anchors. When pressure rose, these anchors allowed her to stay present and make deliberate decisions rather than react impulsively to the moment. The payoff for this transformation was immediate and visible. Świątek became nearly unbeatable on clay and remarkably difficult to break down on other surfaces. In 2022, she compiled an extraordinary 35 match-winning streak and soon added multiple Grand Slam titles to her name. Opponents often described matches against her as exercises in frustration. Winners were hard to land, angles were closed, and rhythm was constantly interrupted. Journalists used phrases like smothering the opposition to try to capture how she could limit the space and time that rivals needed to play their best tennis. Yet the real lesson of Świątek's evolution goes beyond statistics and trophies. It is a lesson about the courage to become yourself. Many athletes chase formulas that worked for someone else. Świątek chose to mine the strengths she was born with, refine them, and make them central to her identity. That took discipline, the discipline to practice the same breathing exercise dozens of times, to accept early losses while learning what worked, and to trust a vision when results were not yet decisive. It also required a team that believed in the plan and gave her permission to grow into her own version of excellence. For creators and performers outside of sport, her story resonates in the same way. Mastery is rarely a sudden event. It is the product of choices repeated over months and years. If you are building a craft, the strategic question is not simply what everyone else does, but what feels truest to you and how you can develop that with rigor. Świątek's forehand at Roland Garros was a beautiful shot, but it was also a visible sign of a deeper transformation. Technical choices married to psychological habits. In the end, she did not win by fitting into someone else's mold. She won by becoming unmistakably herself. That is the kind of victory that extends beyond sport, a reminder that authenticity, amplified by work and patience, can change not only outcomes but the way the world sees you.